can and should empathy be taught in schools? Ed Kirwan thinks so. The photographer and filmmaker launched Empathy Week in 2020, and since then his programme has reached 40 countries and more than 140,000 students around the world. I spoke to him almost exactly 4 years ago, just as he was about to host the first week, and next week will be the fifth one. Ed, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Niall. And I think, we were a couple of weeks away from lockdown last time, so it's nice to be in better circumstances.
Indeed, indeed. What have you been doing since we last spoke with empathy and the spreading of empathy?
Yeah, so it's been a really busy 4 years. We've actually engaged now 175,000 students, so it's even more than
amazing.
I think that number. And really been, I suppose, I'm a science teacher by background. I studied biochemistry at university. I'm obsessed with evidence-based learning and practice, and lots of teachers are in the classroom. And so the past 4 years, we've been looking at, can we actually do this, and what do we do? And for listeners, just to give you an idea, Empathy Week is a festival of storytelling, films and events that develops the skill of empathy in students aged 5 to 18. And we've basically been seeing over the number of years, do schools use what we produce in terms of films and stories? Can they connect with them? And does it actually end up increasing the levels of empathy? And does it actually have benefits beyond that as well? So in terms of behaviour, in terms of the way students interact in the classroom. And what we're seeing, all the evidence suggests, yes, you can teach it. And yes, it's having a really positive impact.
When you speak of empathy as a skill, Ed, how do we develop that skill?
Yeah, and I think people think that you're innately born with empathy, and you are. And some people think, oh, well, you have a certain amount, and therefore other people have less. But the really crucial thing is it can be taught, and at any age. And how we're doing it, and it can be done, as you've just sort of reeled off really nicely in the introduction. Fiction books are really good. Listening to stories, films and TV shows can be really powerful. Film in particular is research backed as well. Nothing beats, and I think this is sad because schools are cutting out trips due to budget cuts, but nothing beats meeting people in real life or having real life experiences. If I could have taken my students when I was a teacher around the world with me, as I do now when I'm filming, the impact that can have meeting someone from a different culture, maybe eating with your hand in India or going to a festival or a carnival in the Caribbean and understanding how people, their cultures work, that's ultimately, and what we say, I always get asked now all the time by teachers and the training we do in companies as well, okay, how do I develop this skill? And quite simply, the simplest answer I can say is increase the amount and the diversity of experiences you have. And that's sometimes unpopular because that might mean listening to someone that you disagree with. But that is one of the most crucial things we can do if we are to build this skill of empathy.
Okay, so a lot of teachers listening to Five Live, I'm sure some head teachers as well. If they want to introduce an Empathy Week into their school, how do they go about doing that, Ed?
Amazing. So we, having been a teacher, I've tried to make it as easy as possible. So it's free for absolutely any school anywhere in the world. And our website is empathy-week.com. And it's not something that they have to do everything, take part in absolutely everything we offer. But what we do offer is in-person events, especially if you're in the UK. We offer on-demand speakers. So we've got a series of people from all over the world that range from journalists to graphic designers to psychotherapists, all talking about their life story and what home means to them. So we have a theme across this year, which is home. And we also have, which is our kind of bread and butter, film-based assemblies. And what teachers can do is just, if a teacher's listening now, you might be planning your assembly next week. Put your pen and paper down, put your slideshows away, because we've got it ready. It's ready for you to use. You can adapt it. We know how teachers like to work, having been them ourselves, so we make adaptable resources. And also, crucially, they can be adaptable for the students in the school that they're teaching in. I think what we forget often is that the world is nuanced and that context is important. And often in news stories and often when we talk about things, we like to group, we like to label. It's how our brains operate. It makes it easier for us. But actually context and nuance is really important. So we create these resources that whilst they're made, they can be made even more bespoke by teachers. And that's why teachers come back year on year and help build what we call the empathy generation with us.
In what ways have you seen empathy amongst kids dilute division? So an increase in empathy diluting division?
Yeah, so we, in 2022, well, a year and a half ago, actually, really, we did a pilot study with Cambridge University looking at 2 primary schools in and around London. And what we saw with the use of our films and our framework is that we actually saw what we call effective empathy increase. And what that is the sort of the feelings and emotion side of empathy increase. There's also a cognitive side, and there's various other definitions. Empathy is much more complex than one maybe thinks. But we saw that increase. We also saw students be prouder of themselves, less annoyed when they made mistakes. And crucially, we also saw that they, after our program and after our intervention, saw that they actually had more in common with children from other countries. So it's about creating this environment where students can actually really see, maybe my opinion, maybe my perspective, and maybe what I feel might just be different to someone else. And it causes that pause, and it causes them to reflect, and it causes them to connect rather than see difference. We're trying to get people to celebrate difference, because that is actually what we all need, to celebrate difference, embrace other people, connect more, and it leads to greater well-being. And that's what we're now looking at. We're sort of halfway through another pilot study with Cambridge, looking at actually what is the further actions from this. Can it increase behaviour long term? We've seen it do it in the short term, but how can this really be the foundation for education moving forward, which is what we think it is.
So, Ed, when the teacher is facing the class, about to start this deep dive into empathy, and some are looking out the window, some are trying to look at their phone, some are wondering what is the point of all of this, an average group of teenagers perhaps. Where does it start?
I think any great teacher will know that to engage students, you have to also make it about them. Yeah. And we have a framework. So we have a framework that splits empathy, and it goes empathy for myself, empathy for others, and empathy in action. And actually, you have to start with yourself. So you have to actually understand who you are and what you're about. And this can be really difficult. And if I'm a teacher and I go, right, today, kids, let's talk about mental health, right? Who's got a mental health issue? Put your hand up. The chances are most hands will stay down. I would put money on that all of them stay down, right? So what we do is we use film primarily, that's our tool, as an enabler. So we make what I would like to suggest is Netflix quality films that show people in their natural environment. We've had people such as Tendi I filmed in Nepal, who's summited Everest 15 times. He's one of the top climbers in the world. We've had a man called Chiran, who's completely visually impaired. We've had an amazing young gentleman called James, who's had Down syndrome. We've had Lippa, who wears her hijab and talks about it as her crown. We've had a completely diverse range of films. And how we use this is you put that on, and students are captivated because they want to watch it. So we lead with entertainment first. So I call it edutainment, right? You lead with the entertainment. And what happens is they get engripped and enthralled, as we all do, probably most of us at night watching TV or watching Netflix or whatever it is. But then the key part is that our framework puts around it an emotional learning framework. So that then engages students to talk about, actually, what do you feel now? What was different before? How did you feel before? You've watched the film. How did you feel after? All of a sudden, students link to the themes. You might get one that gains a bit more confidence, says, do you know what? Actually, I felt a bit like that. And they can reflect their own personal experiences off of the person in the film. And when I first spoke to you 4 years ago, I thought, oh, this is great. What I was probably describing to you then was that they build empathy for the people in the films. And of course they do. But what we've noticed now going into our 5th year is actually it's the empathy that builds when students start talking about them in relation to the film. Teachers then get a sense of what's happening in their students' lives. Oh, I didn't realise that. And over time, this relationship builds. And what we've seen in other research as well is that this can actually reduce bullying and online. So there's a study done in Florida Atlantic Uni a few years ago, 1,600 students, aged 12 to 15. They saw that students with higher levels of empathy actually decreased the cyberbullying, but not only decreased cyberbullying, they decreased the amount of racially motivated and religious motivated cyberbullying. Why are we not developing this across all schools? We have to now start taking action, because this isn't just about developing something for the sake of it. This is developing something that is crucial to well-being, mental health, and really like a civil society.
I wonder if empathy is something that once learnt sticks with you for life, or whether it's something as you get older, it gets harder, you get more rigid in your views and you lose some empathy as you get older.
I like to think of it as a muscle. We talk about it as a muscle, the way you flex it. So, a bit like the gym, you go once, you don't come out looking like the Hulk. So it's the same with empathy, right? If you all of a sudden surround yourself, and we see this with the internet, I always talk to students about your algorithm on your phone and social media. You know, students use it, and I think we don't actually talk to students enough about social media and phones. We saw the government the other day talk about just banning phones outright. I don't agree that's the right stance to deal with something when they're going to just go on after school. We need to be educating around this. And I think with empathy, like I said, increase the amount and diversity of experiences. So if you're Christian or you're Jewish or you're Muslim or you're Sikh or whatever religion you come from, maybe spend some time learning about another religion, or spend some time better speaking to someone from another religion. Or if you're vegan or you're a die-hard carnivore and you've got a clash of views potentially, this is how we do that. And I think as we get older, we get more comfortable. We do tend to get more set in our ways. That's been shown with politics as well. And we just need to sort of push ourselves out of our empathy zone, our zone of understanding a little bit more. The reason why we don't do that takes time, takes effort. People are time poor. People often are busy. We hear that all the time, busy, busy, busy. And so I think we have to make that little bit of effort. But if we can train it, we know we can train this skill. And crucially, I always talk to people, and if I'm doing talks at organisations, whether that's with schools or corporates, and I talk often to leadership teams, is that I say, right, what do you want in your team? What skills do you want? They always list off communication. They always list off the ability to collaborate. They want people who are resilient. They want people who can innovate and are creative. All of these skills sit with a foundation of empathy. If you take empathy, the ability to understand, if we keep it as simple as that as a definition, you take that away, you don't have as great leadership, you don't have as great communication, you don't have the ability to be as resilient, you don't have the ability to innovate as much. So we really do see this skill as something that has to be, coming back to your original point, has to be flexed and has to be continually developed. And if you do that, amazing things happen.
What are the standout moments for you travelling the world and speaking to young people where you've seen them say such empathetic things?
Gosh, I mean, there's a few. I think what I've learned is giving students a chance to speak is one of the most empowering things you can do. You think, and I reflect now a little bit on my own teaching practice, and I tried to do this, but I definitely, as you can probably tell, spoke too much and like the sound of my own voice. No. You can tell I've been a teacher. But there's one moment that really sticks in my mind, and there were these two students in the pool who actually won an empathy award that we did, and they took part in an empathy action project, is what we call it, which is kind of social action project, but empathy is running throughout. And this young girl, Sangam, said to me, I wasn't allowed to do this project at the start. And her father, being in Nepal and being in Kathmandu, her father was not supportive of her filming a project, making a film about the caste society. Although it's legally, technically illegal now, it still very much exists. And over time, he came around, and him hearing that she had won an award changed the way that he viewed her education. And from that, she now says that he is now supportive. He is now not just supportive of me, but supportive of other girls in the community that want an education. I don't think it gives me a little bit of goosebumps now thinking about it, because I sometimes don't stop to think about what we've been doing. But this is the sort of thing that can actually change. We increase the empathy that he had for his daughter. And this is the sort of thing that we're starting to see across the world. We've got schools in Mexico City, we've got schools in the Middle East, we've got schools in Australia, New Zealand, Ghana, Uganda, Nigeria. We call this what we're building, the empathy generation, and schools buy into it because they see that if we can create a more empathetic society, these are going to be the students that then become prime minister, presidents, that then become foreign ministers, that then build peace. and world peace is a huge task, but I don't think we should give up on it. And I do think empathy is a skill that can help be a big piece in the jigsaw of making that happen.
Does each empathy week have a different theme, Ed?
Yes. So our sort of idea is that not only does it have a different theme, but we centre the stories around different countries and contexts. Again, like I said, increase the amount and diversity of experiences. So this year the theme is home. So we're celebrating all things that are around home. So that can be like how good your home is as well. That's the key part of empathy, is that empathy is not feeling sorry for someone else. Empathy is understanding. So it's as important to celebrate and understand the positive times in people's lives as it is the negative. But we do cover a range of themes, from homelessness to kind of war, to, like I said, mental health, well-being, what home means. We've got like hundreds of students on Monday joining an empathy show, and we've got authors and emotional intelligence experts and shows going on. Previous years, we've had themes that include opportunity and education, passion and purpose. I actually know that this can be an exclusive, but the theme next year is going to be What's Your Spark, which is going to ignite and hopefully get students to talk about what is their spark, what makes them alive, turn up and what makes them alive. Is it sport? Is it music? Is it food? What is their passion? So every year this happens, and this is where the long-term thinking, which I think is missing often in various situations, which is that if you take a child from 5 and you take them to the age of 18, they'll have experienced 13 different empathy weeks, and they'll have had a chance every school year to explore themselves and explore other people. And, going out into the world, whether that's into more education at university or college or into the working world, that can only be a benefit when our world is becoming more diverse in terms of population. And we want people to get on with people and be able to work around things. And that doesn't mean everyone's hugging and smiling all the time and clapping for each other. It means we are able to recognise differences, overcome difficulties, overcome differences of opinion, sometimes put them to the side, and actually work together and be more connected.
Post the week, what is the plan to make sure that for the other 51 weeks of the year, that what is learnt in that week is practiced upon and built upon? It's like going to the gym once in a year, right? You don't want to do that. You want to keep going regularly. So then what happens after Empathy Week?
So we then also, we offer training to teachers, so schools get in touch with us if they want that training to actually train their staff. I think, ultimately you can think of it as train the trainer, so upskill teachers to be able to then develop this and bring it into their classroom practice. We also then have our films program that they can take part in that comes out every September. And so there are other ways, but what we do in the week is also we train staff. So we give them ways to think about other things and enable them to have these little nuggets that they can actually put through their school year. Teachers are not lacking empathy. I think they're one of the most empathetic types of people out there. Having been one myself, I will never do a harder job than teaching. We need to treat teachers in this country like we treat any top profession, because it is a top profession. It's the only job that actually teaches everyone else and gets them to the job and career that they want, no matter what you think about education. And I think teachers have such a difficult job, and they do this already. What we do is help them see that empathy can be a thread between all of those things that they do through the year. It's simple things, like I tell teachers, you don't even need tech. Ask your students when they come in after a holiday. A lot of schools have gone back yesterday after half term. Some in the country are on half term this week. But I say to teachers, use a Post-it note. Ask your students what was the best and worst thing about their week. Just gone. It can be anonymous. You don't have to ask them to write their names on it. Collect it up at the end of the lesson. Read it. You will get already an understanding of your class. I used to do this. You get an understanding of your class, where they're at, what happened over the half term, and it often explains their behaviour. I always say there's never an excuse for behaviour, but there's always a reason. There's always a reason people behave they do. It doesn't excuse it. Doesn't excuse it at all. If someone's acting bad, there's punishments for that. But it's these little tips and tricks that we help to train teachers so that throughout the year, when we're not there, they can actually develop this skill and do it. And we've seen amazing things happen. Some schools have said, right, we're just going to put this in our curriculum. There's a school up in Darlington, shout out to Reed Street Primary. They've been massive supporters for us from day one. They have empathy lessons now. There's a school in Saudi Arabia as well that does the same. Sarah Village School in Saudi Arabia, they do the same. They've actually integrated empathy into their curriculums, starting with us, and then they celebrate everything that they do in the week.
Someone's texted in and wishes to remain anonymous, but said, I've recently started doing some work at an FE college as a lecturer from industry. Frankly, I've been shocked at the lack of ability to engage and confidence in speaking amongst the young people. Surprisingly to me, it's a struggle to even get them to talk to one another, let alone engage in class discussion. It's practically impossible. Does your guest, Ed Kirwan, recognise this, especially post-pandemic? And any tips to try to encourage engagement?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we're hearing the whole time, is the difficulty of behaviour. And I think I would come back to, again, I don't know the context of this caller, so I don't necessarily want to give advice. It's a bit like a doctor giving advice across, because it's always contextual. I don't know where you are and what is going on. But I would say start to use their own game. I know that people have said about technology and things, but that's what we're doing. We know kids watch Netflix, so we're using film as a powerful way to show them how they can actually act better to each other. I always talk about Empathy Week and what we do as a Trojan horse. We don't actually, you wouldn't believe it, despite the name of Empathy Week, most of the things, we don't go around plastering it. This is about empathy. This is about mental health. This is about, we actually, almost trick students into thinking, oh, I'm just talking about this person. But actually what they are talking about is their own mental health and well-being. And I would suggest that with young people, and this is a pressure of education, teachers have to create 21 or 22 hour-long presentations a week. I don't think there's any other profession that does that. If the government sort of moved to reduce teaching hours and actually allow teaching staff more time to get to know their students or create more time to plan lessons and things like that, I think that would really help. I really feel for the person that's texted in, because the pressure on teachers and teaching staff in whatever faculty or whatever age is enormous, is huge. And young people are confused and disorientated as well. But I would suggest, I don't know, a way of actually involving technology in their approach. I think that's one of the dangerous things about banning phones in schools. This is only my sort of personal opinion, but we're not educating young people how to manage distractions and actually how to manage this tech. Maybe because it's come so fast that we don't know. But banning something, look historically at banning anything, doesn't work.
No. But
I feel really sorry.
It gets people discussing it on phone-ins, I guess, around, and gets people angry in newspapers about it, I guess. Very quickly, give us the website. Where can people find out more about Empathy Week?
So you can get to know us and find out more about what we're doing and register for free at empathy-week.com. We're also on socials as well. We love you to join us. We've got over 600 schools across 40 countries joining us next week. Hopefully that will increase. I just hope that what we can do is help. I always say to teachers that, we've been teachers ourselves and we get it, and by no means there's any pressure to be involved. But I think taking a little step towards this and hopefully relieving some pressure also off teachers, so that they can deliver something that's fun, exciting, and get students talking, is only going to help, hopefully. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Ed, good to see you again.
Yeah, and you. Maybe join you in another 5 years.
No. We'll make it. It'll be quicker than that. Ed, thank you very much indeed.